A former member of One Direction, Liam Payne, has died after falling from the third floor of a hotel in Buenos Aires.
After they all failed to sufficiently wow judges in their individual runs on the UK version of the singing competition show The X Factor, 5 young male singers joined forces in 2010 to become One Direction. That 5-voiced group, consisting of Niall Horan, Louis Tomlinson, Zayn Malik, Harry Styles, and Liam Payne, became the biggest boy band of their generation, selling millions of units, a lot of One Direction posters, and ascending the British and American charts with tunes like What Makes You Beautiful, Best Song Ever, and Story of My Life. When One Direction announced in 2015 that it would be taking an indefinite pause, which later proved permanent, its throngs of adoring fans and admirers considered it one of the most devastating band breakups of the past decade. Malik was the first to leave the act amid a tour after learning that his cohort was hesitant to keep going with the band. "I knew something was happening, so I just got ahead of the curve," he told the Call Her Daddy podcast. "There were obviously underlying issues within our friendships too. We'd got sick of each other, if I'm being completely honest." An objectively sad ending to an endeavor that made a lot of people very happy. It's not nearly the worst thing to ever happen to the newly minted superstar singers. There are more tragic things to ever happen to the members of One Direction. Let's take Harry Styles, for example. Since The X Factor and One Direction made him a world-famous superstar in 2010, Harry Styles has been romantically linked to many famous women, including Taylor Swift and Olivia Wilde. Styles' first post-Rise relationship came in 2011, and it was with UK television host Caroline Flack, well known for her stint as a presenter on The X Factor spin-off, The Extra Factor. It was a musician relationship with a controversial age gap, and even one was considered illegal in many jurisdictions. When the couple was dating, Flack was 31 years old and Styles was 17. "We were both single, we got on well, and we had a laugh," Flack told The Sun on Sunday. It was only when it became public knowledge that things turned sour. Shortly after Flack endured heckles on the street accusing her of being a sex offender, the relationship ended. In 2020, and facing a courtroom trial over charges she assaulted her then-partner, Flack died by suicide, according to a London coroner. Flack was 40 years old. In lieu of a statement, Styles performed at the Brit Awards while wearing a black ribbon and a button bearing Flack's quotation, "Treat people with kindness." And then there is Louis Tomlinson. One Direction member Louis Tomlinson was raised in Doncaster, England by his stepfather, Mark Tomlinson, and mother, Johanna Deacon, who worked as a midwife. They divorced in 2011, and in early 2016, doctors diagnosed Deacon with a particularly serious variant of leukemia, a cancer affecting the blood and bone marrow. Deacon died in December 2016 at the age of 43. According to People magazine, one of her final requests was for Tomlinson to proceed with a planned spot on The X Factor, scheduled to take place just days after Deacon's death. Tomlinson grew up in a blended family of 7 siblings and half-siblings, and less than 3 years after his mother died, one of the singer's younger sisters died too. In March 2019, Felicite Tomlinson was discovered in her London apartment. Not responsive, she died soon thereafter of what authorities initially ruled a heart attack. A coroner's investigation conducted later in 2019 determined that the younger Tomlinson died from a fatal, excessive mixture of prescription anxiety medication, painkillers, and cocaine. Felicity Tomlinson was just 18 years old. But of all the boys, Liam Payne's case is so far the worst. Payne recognized a significant period of his time in One Direction after seeing past photos of himself and realizing his face looked different, calling it his pills and booze face. He told the Diary of a CEO podcast of his bloated image, "My face was just like 10 times more than it is now. The problem we had in the band, the best way to secure us because of how big it got, was just to lock us in our rooms, and of course, what's in the room? A minibar." His consumption of alcohol and prescription drugs grew out of hand. "I thought, well, I'm going to have a party for one, and that just seemed to carry on throughout many years of my life," Payne explained. The consistent substance abuse further led to thoughts of suicide, Payne said. Drinking so much alcohol taxed Payne's kidney. Most people have two of the organs, but the singer only had one that worked, a complication of his premature birth, until the problem corrected itself sometime around 2012, according to what the singer posted on X, formerly Twitter. In August 2023, Payne felt so ill that he checked himself into a hospital, where he learned that he was suffering from an infection of a kidney. It was days before his scheduled tour of South America, a jaunt he had to call off. Over the past week, I've been in hospital with a serious kidney infection. It's something I wouldn't wish on anyone, and doctors' orders are that I now need to rest and recover, Payne said on his social media pages. In late September 2024, a former One Direction member arrived in Argentina for a vacation. "It's a lovely day here in Argentina," he said in a video posted to Snapchat on October 16th, in which he also discussed an itinerary of horseback riding and polo. At the time, Payne was staying in a third-floor courtyard-overlooking room at the Casa Sur Palermo Hotel in Buenos Aires. According to a recorded phone call released to the media by city officials, a hotel employee called police over concern for an extremely agitated guest that would turn out to be Payne. "When he is conscious, he is destroying the entire room, and we need you to send someone," the worker said, according to Reuters, also suggesting that the balcony presented a threat to the guest's safety. Responding officers were told that the man in question might be intoxicated by alcohol or drugs, and when they arrived at Casa Sur, the manager told them that he just heard a commotion in the courtyard. That's where the police discovered Payne. He'd evidently fallen off his balcony to the ground, 3 stories below. The singer was pronounced dead at the age of 31. But not even the magnificent-voiced Zayn Malik has been spared by the series of unfortunate events. As mentioned earlier, in March 2015, Malik became the first member of One Direction to leave the popular boy band. His sudden departure from a tour of Asia was the first public suggestion that the singer was dealing with some significant mental health issues. Zayn has signed off with stress and is flying back to the UK to recuperate, One Direction spokesperson said at the time. Following the split from One Direction, Malik quickly embarked on a solo career, and in June 2016, he cancelled his scheduled slot at the Capitol Summertime Ball in London. "Unfortunately, my anxiety that has haunted me throughout the last few months around live performances has gotten the better of me," Malik wrote on X. "With the magnitude of the event, I have suffered the worst anxiety of my career." After privately exercising self-care, Malik found some peace. "I now have no problem with anxiety. It was something I was dealing with in the band," he told the Sunday Times in 2017. In that interview, the singer also shared that he coped with an eating disorder during his time in One Direction. "Every area of my life was so regimented and controlled, it was the one area where I could say, 'No, I'm not eating that,'" Malik shared. "Once I got over the control, the eating just came back into place." In his first solo interview since leaving the band, Zayn Malik told Fader magazine that One Direction's music was generic as F, and that it didn't fit his style. "Whenever I would suggest something, it was like it didn't fit us. There was just a general conception that the management already had of what they wanted for the band, and I just wasn't convinced with what we were selling," he told the publication. He said he wasn't 100% behind the band's music, and that the group was recording what they were told would sell. After leaving One Direction, Malik went on the record to say he isn't a fan of the band's music. He told Rolling Stone, "That's not music I would listen to. Would you listen to One Direction at a party with your girl? I wouldn't. To me, that's not an insult. That's me as a 22-year-old man. As much as I was in that band and I loved everything that we did, that's not music that I would listen to. I want to make music that I think is cool shit. I don't think that's too much to ask for," he added. In 2015, Malik teased the release of new music on Twitter. He shared the announcement along with #RealMusic. Many fans interpreted this as a jab at One Direction's discography, feeling as though Malik meant to imply the music he had previously made with One Direction was fake or not quite up to his standards. In 2016, in his first solo on-camera interview with radio station Beats One, Malik said he never wanted to be in One Direction. "I think I always wanted to go from like the first year, really," he told the interviewer. "I never really wanted to be there, like in the band. I realized the direction we were going in, mind the pun. With the music, I instantly realized it wasn't for me because I realized I couldn't put any input in," he added. The singer told US Weekly he and his bandmate Harry Styles were not close while they were in the band together. He said he never really spoke to Harry, and that he had never been under the impression they would keep in touch after Malik left the band. That same year, he told Billboard that he doesn't really talk to anyone in the band anymore. "Our relationships have definitely changed since we were in a band together, but I think that's just life," Malik told the publication. "Everybody grows up. 2 of the guys have got kids now. But no, I don't talk to any of them, really." In a separate interview with GQ, Malik said he didn't make any friends from the band. He explained, "It's not something that I'm afraid to say. I definitely have issues trusting people." This came as a surprise to fans because, in the Facebook post announcing his departure, Malik wrote that he had 4 friends for life. In a 2018 cover story, the vocalist explained he felt underrepresented in terms of the music One Direction was producing. He told GQ, "My vision didn't necessarily always go with what was going on within the band." In contrast to the pop music of One Direction was known for producing, Zayn released an R&B album in 2016. Speaking with Vogue UK in 2018, the singer referred to One Direction as a machine. He discussed the band's sudden rise to fame and rigorous touring schedule, saying, "I think back to the performances towards the end when we were in stadiums. I wasn't really ever able to enjoy the experience. The machine had gone too fast." Zayn said Haran was his favorite when speaking to Sirius XM in March 2021, according to Cosmo UK. The artist said the Heartbreak Weather singer makes the best music. "Yeah, I will say that he makes better music than me," he added. "Yeah, I'm a Niall fan." Shortly after the official One Direction Instagram account shared a tribute to Liam Payne, Malik posted a photo of the two as teenagers on Instagram alongside a message to his late bandmate. "I can't help but think selfishly that there are so many more conversations for us to have in our lives. I never got to thank you for supporting me through some of the most difficult times in my life," Malik wrote. He called Payne headstrong and acknowledged that the two sometimes butted heads, but said he always secretly respected Payne for it. When it came to the band's music, Malik wrote, "Payne was the most qualified in every sense." He wrote he'd always cherished their memories and wished he could tell Payne how much he loved and respected him. The youngest member of One Direction, Harry Styles, has since released a critically acclaimed album, gone on a world tour, and co-chaired the 2019 Met Gala. Since the band split, he has been relatively quiet about his relationships with the other members of One Direction, but he has mentioned his distant relationship with one member in particular, Malik. In a 2017 profile for Rolling Stone, Styles responded to Malik, saying One Direction's music wasn't cool. "I think it's a shame he felt that way, but I never wish anything but luck to anyone doing what they love. If you're not enjoying something and need to do something else, you absolutely should do that. I'm glad he's doing what he likes and good luck to him," said Styles. In that same 2017 interview, when asked why the band agreed to take a hiatus, Styles told Rolling Stone he didn't want to exhaust the band's fan base, and spoke for the other members, saying, "We all thought too much of the group to let that happen." Styles went on to entertain ideas of a future reunion, saying, "I love the band and would never rule out anything in the future. The band changed my life, gave me everything." The singer told Another Man magazine that a One Direction reunion would never be ruled out. He thinks it is good for the members to be exploring different things, but that if a reunion were to happen when everyone felt comfortable, it would be amazing. During his turn hosting and performing on Saturday Night Live, Styles made a reference to his boy band days, saying, "I love those guys, they're my brothers. Niall, Liam, Lewis, and, Ringo. Yeah, that's it." By swapping out Malik's name with Ringo's stars, Styles referenced how Malik was the first person to leave One Direction. sort of how Starr was technically the first member to leave the Beatles. Then, in March 2020, Styles said that looking back, he doesn't necessarily think Malik's leaving the band was a bad thing. "I don't know if I could say it's something he shouldn't have done. I just didn't feel that way. So it's hard for me to condemn it because I don't," he said on The Howard Stern Show. "Especially in hindsight, looking at it now, the last thing that I would have wanted is for him to have stayed there if he didn't want to be there." On One Direction's 10-year anniversary, Styles shared a photo on Instagram of all 5 band members hugging on a stage. In the caption, he wrote, "I've been struggling to put into words how grateful I am for everything that's happened over the last 10 years. I've seen things and places that I'd only ever dreamt of when I was growing up. I've had the pleasure of meeting and working with some of the most incredible people and gained friendships that I know I will treasure for the rest of my life." He continued, "None of this would be possible without the support you've given along the way. And for that, I will be forever thankful. I just can't believe it's been 10 years. Thank you to our crew, our team, and everyone else who helped us along the way. To all the fans, I love you and thank you with all my heart. You did it all and you changed everything. And finally, to the boys, I love you so much and I couldn't be prouder of everything we achieved together. Here's to 10. H. During his December 2020 Vogue cover interview, Styles spoke about what it was like being in One Direction. "I think the typical thing is to come out of a band like that and almost feel like you have to apologize for being in it," Styles told Vogue. "But I loved my time in it. It was all new to me, and I was trying to learn as much as I could." He added, "I wanted to soak it in. I think that's probably why I like traveling now, soaking stuff up." Styles told Variety that he learned so much from being part of the band, and that he wanted to write with so many different people. He also commented on the notion that many bands that split end up with just one breakout star. "When you look at the history of people coming out of bands and starting solo careers, they feel this need to apologize for being in the band. Don't worry everyone, that wasn't me. Now I get to do what I really want to do. But we loved being in the band," he said. He continued, "I think there's a want to pit people against each other. And I think it's never been about that for us. It's about the next step in evolution." Styles also said that seeing how he and his fellow bandmates have achieved so many different things says a lot about how hard we worked in it. For the April 2022 Better Homes and Gardens cover story, Styles spoke more about his time in the band and the impact it left on him. He said being in the band was all about how do you keep it going and how do you get it to grow. "There were so many years where, for me, especially in the band, in the first few years coming out of it, I'd just been terrified of it ending because I didn't necessarily know who I was if I didn't do music," he added. He also said during some of the COVID-19 lockdowns, he began processing a lot of stuff that happened when I was in the band, especially how he was encouraged to give a lot of pieces of himself away to get people to like him. In 2023, Harry Styles won the award for his critically acclaimed album, Harry's House. The singer had quite a year, from performing at Madison Square Garden for 15 nights straight to beating out artists like Beyoncé, Adele, Bad Bunny, Kendrick Lamar, and Coldplay for Album of the Year. "There's no such thing as best in music," Styles said while accepting the award. "I don't think any of us sit in studios thinking about what is going to get us one of these. This is so kind. This doesn't happen to people like me very often. This is so nice. Thank you very much." Styles shared a photo on Instagram of Payne performing in front of a crowd alongside a message. "I am truly devastated by Liam's passing. His greatest joy was making other people happy, and it was an honor to be alongside him as he did it," Styles wrote. "The years we spent together will forever remain the most cherished years of my life. I will miss him always, my lovely friend," he continued. Next up in the band is Louis Tomlinson. During their time on The X Factor, Tomlinson had minimal screen time. He didn't sing any solo parts on the show and was never the band's frontman. Over the years, he began to perform more solos on the band's albums and during live tours. In 2017, he told The Guardian, "In the last year of One Direction, I was probably the most confident I ever was. And then it was, okay, hiatus." When beginning his own solo career, Tomlinson expressed uncertainty in his ability to team up with any superstar collaborators. In 2017, he told The Guardian, "I couldn't say to you now that I could definitely get a superstar writer in a session with me," later adding, "Harry Styles won't struggle with any of that." Tomlinson has already released music with Bebe Rexha and Steve Aoki, and his bandmates have also created hit songs with famed artists. Styles has collaborated with Stevie Nicks, Ariana Grande, and Casey Musgraves. Malik has collaborated with artists like Taylor Swift and Sia. Horan has worked with Julia Michaels and Maren Morris. And Payne has worked with stars like Rita Ora and Zedd. So many incredible memories. Days like today are days for reflection, so proud looking back. Thank you for always having our backs. Big love to the lads. #9 years of One Direction, the musician tweeted on July 23, 2019, the 9th anniversary of the band being formed. In a 2019 interview with ODE Entertainment, Tomlinson said he feels a One Direction reunion is inevitable, but he doesn't know when exactly it'll happen. In a later interview with Build that same year, the singer said he wasn't really ready for the band to go on a break. "It surprised me to a certain degree, so I didn't have any plan in place or anything like that," he added. "I think I just thought that I was going to carry on writing for other people, but not necessarily for myself." He said he ended up writing a lot of songs and liking some, so he decided to pursue a solo singing career. In December 2016, Tomlinson's mom, Johanna Deacon, died of leukemia. He was previously slated to perform on The X Factor just days after her death, so he stuck to his commitment and performed his first solo song in her honor. He said all his former bandmates except Malik came to see him perform. The singer later spoke about the incident on the Dan Wootton Interview podcast in 2019. "All the boys had agreed to come to that performance and he didn't show, so that really bugged me. It was just seeing everyone there, Harry, Niall, and Liam. That was what I needed that night. That support," he said. So, on the other end of the spectrum, it kind of really showed. Then, in October 2019, the singer told Metro that he didn't think he was ready to decide whether or not he could forgive Malik. "I just don't think I am mature enough, even in my own head, to give that a real answer. At the moment, I am still pretty mad about the whole thing," he told the publication. "I don't think Zayn handled it very well, but never say never. Who knows, he chatted a lot of shit in the early days. I thought One Direction was pretty good," he added. "I think all the boys would agree with this. There's been moments in all of our lives where naturally some of us speak to others more than others," he told Cosmopolitan. "I wouldn't say I'm closest to any of the boys. Recently, I've probably spoken to Liam 10 times as much as I spoke to the other lads. 6 months ago, that was Niall." In terms of reuniting One Direction, he told the publication he's not exactly opposed to the idea, but that there is sort of a time limit. "Anything over 30 sounds F-old to me right now," he said. During a January 2020 interview with Rolling Stone, Tomlinson was asked why he never really complains about or renounces One Direction. He explained that he absolutely loves the band and still misses his time with his former bandmates. "First, I absolutely f***ing love the band. I'm super proud about where I've come from. At the end of the day, I'm from Doncaster, and the band gave me such a nice opportunity," he told the publication. He also said he thinks it's a desperate attempt to try and get cool points when people leave their bands and trash talk it afterward. "I f***ing love the boys, and I love everything we've done together. And I still miss my time with them. I think any of the boys would be lying if they said otherwise. It was a special time in our lives, definitely," he added. On One Direction's 10-year anniversary, The Wall's singer shared an early photo of the band on Instagram. In the caption, he wrote, "Our first ever photo together. The memories we've shared together have been incredible. Can't believe it's been 10 years already. I look back incredibly proud. Thanks for everything, lads, and love to you the fans as always." He also tweeted, Too many incredible memories to mention, but not a day goes by that I don't think about how amazing it was. At Niall Official, at Harry_Styles, at Liam Payne, at Zayn Malik. So proud of you all individually. He also thanked fans for all of their support and wrote, "Miss it every day." In July 2022, Tomlinson was on Smallzy's Surgery Show. 12 years today the band got formed, he said. When the host said he only met Tomlinson 11 years ago and was late to the party, Tomlinson said the first album was shit anyway, referring to One Direction's debut, Up All Night. Later in the interview, he spoke about his solo career after the band split up. There's still pressure, obviously, for me to deliver a good record, but there were just so many different opinions on the first album, and me trying to find my feet coming out of a band the size of One Direction. There was so much going on, he said. Per Page Six, during an appearance on the Zach Sang Show, Tomlinson revealed he and Malik haven't quite made up since their falling out around 2015 and 2016. When asked if he was still friends with Malik, Tomlinson said, "You'd have to ask him." Again, the singer continued by saying he wasn't sure if he was mature enough to get over what happened, but "I'm definitely closer to being over all that." There's been numerous times over the last couple of years where I've thought about him and hoped he's all right, Tomlinson said, adding that he definitely wishes Malik well. The Doncaster native told The Telegraph that he'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me at first, seeing Styles' solo career take off after the band went on hiatus. He said he felt bothered by Styles' success only because I didn't know where to place myself, and really my only point of reference was other members of the band. But he said he's not surprised Styles is the most commercially successful because he really fits the mold of a modern star. "I look at Harry like a brother, man," Tomlinson said. "I have a lot of pride for what he's doing." In another interview with The Times, the singer said the band's breakup in 2015 left him mortified. "When One Direction split up, I was mortified. I was absolutely gutted," he said. "I was a bit bitter, I suppose, because it just felt like another loss to me. But I have a better understanding of things now, and there's not as much anger. It is what it is." He continued, "I do miss the boys, and I definitely miss being one of the five, but I like doing my own thing too. It was time." He said the band getting back together is hard to imagine right now, but he'd be up for it in the future. The day after Payne's death, Tomlinson shared a photo of himself and Payne from one of their previous concerts with a heartfelt tribute on Instagram. "I am beyond devastated to be writing this, but yesterday I lost a brother. Liam was somebody I looked up to every day, such a positive, funny, and kind soul," Tomlinson wrote. He continued, "And for the record, Liam was, in my opinion, the most vital part of One Direction. His experience from a young age, his perfect pitch, his stage presence, his gift for writing. The list goes on. Thank you for shaping us, Liam." Tomlinson also shared a message to Payne, adding he'd tell Payne's son Bear stories of how amazing his dad was. In a video for Music Choice, Liam Payne was asked about some of his bandmates' solo music. He said Styles' single Sign of the Times is not his sort of music, and isn't something he'd listen to, but he respects Harry's taste and thinks he did a great job of doing what he wanted to do. "He'd say the same thing about me," Payne said of Styles. Payne creates hip-hop-style music, whereas Styles' solo tracks have classic rock vibes. Payne said Haran's solo single, This Town, was great. While presenting friend James Corden with the Man of the Year award at Glamour's Women of the Year ceremony in 2017, Payne told a story about the band Corden was in when he was younger. Corden's band apparently had a slogan which Payne followed up with, "One Direction never had a slogan, but if we had, Zayn might have stayed." Payne, who has had success with solo songs like Strip That Down and Get Low, recently responded to a fan on Twitter when they asked him about a reunion. The fan reportedly shared 2 screenshots of conflicting reports of a reunion tour, asking Payne if he could make up his mind. The singer responded by writing, "Can people stop passing blame to me about this? I get asked this ridiculous question 500 times a day, so I just say whatever guess I have at the time. But still, this band has 3 other members. You want the answer? Ask them." It literally was the perfect storm. Payne told Men's Health magazine in 2019, speaking of One Direction's success. He said so many scenarios had to fall into place for the band to be as successful as it was, and a lot of it came down to dumb luck. He also spoke about how the group's fame took a toll on him and impacted his mental health. When you're doing hundreds and hundreds of concerts, and it's the same 22 songs at the same time every single day, even if you're not happy, you've got to go out there, he told the publication. It's almost like putting the Disney costume on before you step up on stage, and underneath the Disney costume I was pissed quite a lot of the time, because there was no other way to get your head around what was going on. He said it was fun, but parts of being famous and being on tour just got a little bit toxic. During a November 2019 interview with the Hits Radio Breakfast Show, Payne said he'd be interested in collaborating with Styles, even though he once said he wasn't a huge fan of his music. From the first song off his album, I feel like me and Harry could do a really cool song together, he said on the show, speaking of Styles' album Fine Line, and the first single from it, Lights Up. There could be a good mix between the two things because the first song was kind of funky, so I feel like we could break down into some sort of hip-hop R&B thing halfway though, and have like a little mega mix, Payne explained. Per in a December 2019 interview with The Face magazine, Payne spoke about whether or not he'd recently been in touch with his former bandmates. I speak to Lewis quite regularly, he told the publication, and I feel like I know where I stand with Niall. But with Harry, there's so much mystery around who he's become. I was looking at some pictures of him the other day and I just thought, I don't know what more I'd say to him other than hello and how are you? I mean, look at the stuff I put out and the stuff Harry puts out. Polar opposite, he added, referencing Styles' soft rock music and his own hip-hop-oriented work. I'm like the Antichrist version of what Harry is, he told the publication. In December 2019, Payne told the Sunday Brunch radio show that he thinks the band will get back together at some point. I think we will for sure. I don't know when that is yet, but all I know is that there are at least 2 years because everyone's released new music and you have to go and promo. There are at least 2 years, he added. In the same December 2019 interview with Sunday Brunch, Payne said he recently saw Styles for the first time in 3 years and said he was lovely. He also seemed to allude that he didn't get along with everyone in the band. We literally, for 5 years, were in each other's pockets, he said. The thing I always describe it as is if you imagine an office, and One Direction was my office. There's one person you don't really get along with, one person you don't know very much about, one person you hang out with all the time, and someone you're sort of friends with. In a November 2019 interview with GQ, Payne said everything changed once One Direction parted ways. New teams, new managers, new labels. Building those working relationships can be tricky. You also become the boss of your own shit, and I was 21, 22 when I first started doing my own thing, so it's all a bit scary and can be a bit lonely, he told the publication, saying the process is a lot of fun too. Now the band members have all worked our way through this first couple of years. You can kind of see everyone's finding their own feet. Take Harry at the moment. You know, he's just found what I think is his sound and exactly where he wants to be, which took him a little minute to get into since he had his last album out, he added. The singer also mentioned that a few years after the band went on a break, he went into therapy to cope. That first therapy session and being like, I don't even know what I like or anything about myself. It was pretty scary stuff, he told GQ. Payne also told GQ that he and his bandmates have always had their differences, and that he still thinks about things he'd do differently, but that it's all part of growing up. Being in One Direction was such a schoolyard mentality somehow. The One Direction University, I call it. Everyone has stuff they've said at parties they wish they hadn't, but for us, the difference was that it was all happening in front of the world, Payne told GQ. He said that now that he's older, certain things don't bother him as much, but Malik leaving the band was tough. I think with Zayn's particular exit and the way he chose to go, we haven't really heard from him since he left. He didn't even say goodbye, if I'm being honest. It was a really sordid scenario, from our side certainly, A bit strange. It's difficult, he added. While playing the game Plead the Fifth on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, Payne said he reunited with Styles after a few years of not speaking to him. We spoke about a number of things. We hadn't seen each other for 3 years. Literally, I hadn't seen him once. We hadn't spoken or anything. He was pretty much the same boy that I left him. We spoke about kids and happiness and all sorts of stuff, he told Cohen. Later on in the game, Payne chose to stay mum about reports that he dated supermodel Naomi Campbell, which then forced him to answer a question about which member of 1D is the most well-endowed. I'd have to say myself, I'm going to say me. That's almost like pleading the fifth, he said. In another exclusive interview with The Sun, Payne said that One Direction was trying to plan something special for their 10-year anniversary. The singer said he wasn't sure how many details he was allowed to share, and he did not say whether or not Malik would be involved in this special project. We've got a 10-year anniversary coming up, so we've all been speaking together a lot over the last few weeks, which has been really nice, Payne told the publication. To hear a lot of people's voices and seeing old content and different things that we haven't seen for a long time or never seen before, it's very interesting, he added, noting that it's been really great to connect with his bandmates again. For Zayn, he loves music and he's an amazing talent. He genuinely was the best singer in One Direction, hand on heart, out of all of us, Payne also told GQ. He said he tried to reach out to Malik but got to a point where he wouldn't know where to begin. I hope he has good people around him, but I don't at this stage think it's anything the rest of us can solve, Payne added. The singer opened up about some of his struggles while he was in One Direction on the Diary of a CEO podcast. Payne said he did have moments of suicidal ideation and dealt with taking pills and drinking alcohol. He said he quit after seeing unflattering photos of himself in the press. There were a few pictures of me on a boat and I was all bloated out and I call it pills and booze face, Payne said. I just didn't like myself very much. He said he dealt with a lot during the band's peak fame. And even one of One Direction's former managers went to therapy because they were the band's manager. He also turned to alcohol. In the band, the best way to secure us because of how big we'd got was just to lock us in our rooms. Of course, what's in the room? A minibar, he added. So at a certain point I thought, I'm going to have a party for one, and that seemed to carry on for many years of my life. He said it was his only way to get his frustration out during the day. Payne also mentioned recently talking about therapy and revelations with Tomlinson. He said he still struggled to be alone and had been sober for a month. Whatever the case, the tragic turn of events in One Direction's members, and more shockingly, the recent death of Liam Payne, has shown fans a different light of fame. And that's it from us today. Until next time. Thank you for watching.